What a shame, the woman whispered, while staring at the lady selling pudding at the street corner. Just a mere vendor. She doesn't belong with a president. Sweat glistened on the lean face of the woman, who stood beside a makeshift stall, carrying two young twins in her arms. But President Gabriel couldn't look away. There was a strange pain in his chest, something he couldn't explain. He had lost his memory years ago, due to an accident. He tried the pudding. The moment he did, he froze. A flash of laughter, a kiss, and a promise of love. "Stop the car," he ordered. "Turn the car around. I'm going to marry her." But before he could reach her, the woman ran. Just then, a truck came barreling down and crashed into her stall. Inside the grand showroom of Eleganza Motors, a luxury car dealership in downtown Chicago, stood a young woman who lit up the entire space. Her name was Sierra Pennington. At first glance, one might mistake her for just another pretty face in car sales. But behind her soft features, expressive eyes, and always slightly powdered nose, lay a mind sharper than the engine of any luxury vehicle she sold. "Ma'am, this SUV is fuel efficient, has a 5-star safety rating, and rear sensors, perfect for seniors like you," she said sweetly to an elderly woman. Kneeling beside the tires, she used a laser pointer to demonstrate tire durability. The lady beamed. "You're so polite and knowledgeable, dear. Makes me want to buy on the spot." Another closed deal. Another success for Sierra. "Anytime, ma'am. If you have friends or family so looking to buy a car, just point them to me," she said, smiling graciously. Yet not all smiles in the showroom were sincere. In the corner, envious eyes glared. "She only sells because she's pretty," whispered Karen, a senior sales consultant. "Take away the heels. I bet she doesn't even know how to change a tire." "Probably just good at TikTok," snorted another, mocking Sierra's strategy of promoting cars through viral videos. Sierra heard the fake smiles and quiet gossip, but she never engaged. Instead, she simply smiled to herself. "I may be kind, but I'm not stupid." Every day at the showroom was like a movie. Newlyweds bought sedans, retired couples looked for road trip companions, and immigrants surprised their mums with hatchbacks. Sierra was the bridge to their dreams. Until one day, a sharply dressed man entered. He wore a simple polo and slacks, but his designer shoes and watch gave him away. Clearly not used to the Midwestern summer heat, he remained composed. "Good morning, sir," Sierra greeted with her usual bright smile. The man glanced at her, and for a brief second, time stood still. His name was Gabriel Saavedra. Unbeknownst to Sierra, he was the son of a billionaire furniture mogul. "I'm looking for an SUV, city drive but good for long trips too. Can you help me?" "Of course, sir. Right this way." As she walked him through the showroom, Gabriel couldn't take his eyes off her. There was something magnetic about her presence, and the more he got to know her, the deeper his admiration grew, not just for her beauty, but for her intelligence and work ethic. After a few test drives and discussions, Gabriel said, "Deal," as he pulled out a pen. "But one condition." Sierra raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "Date me, just once." She laughed, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she said yes. One date turned into two, then more than they could count. Sierra, who once only had time for coffee breaks on Sundays, now found herself dining under the stars, visiting art galleries, and walking beaches she had only seen on postcards. Their first date was at a cozy Italian restaurant in Chicago's West Loop. Gabriel was thrilled when she ordered something as simple as carbonara. "Why didn't you order steak?" "It's on me," Gabriel asked. Sierra smiled. "When I eat expensive food, I feel like I have to pay for it in more than just money. You know what I mean?" Gabriel laughed. "I get it. Maybe I'll be the one paying then." Sierra was taken aback. What? Nothing. He took a sip of wine. You're cute when you're confused. Their dates became more frequent. Sometimes they went to art galleries, where Gabriel pretended he knew how to interpret abstract art. Sometimes they browsed vintage shops in Chicago's North Side, where Sierra picked out odd jackets for him to wear. One rainy evening, they dined at a street food joint tucked into a narrow alley. Gabriel poked at a skewer of grilled meat with a smile. This could rival a 5-star meal. If you can't appreciate this, you're not for me. I'm vinegar then, Gabriel quipped, shielding Sierra from the rain with a napkin. I go with you no matter where. You're so corny, she giggled, but I like it. Slowly, Sierra's heart opened, one she thought had long closed to the idea of forever. Gabriel, though raised in boardrooms and stockholder meetings, knew how to listen, laugh, and love without making her feel small. Despite falling in love, Sierra didn't quit her job. She wasn't like what others assumed, but soon her sales began to drop. What happened to Sierra? She used to be the top seller, someone whispered. She's dating a rich guy now, probably lost her drive, said a former teammate. What Sierra didn't know was that her colleagues were sabotaging her, stealing her leads, turning away walk-ins so they wouldn't go to her. She's not focused anymore. Rich boyfriend. No more hunger. The rumors spread. Then one day, HR called her in. Ms. Pennington, we regret to inform you that your contract won't be renewed. She lost her job, the job she loved, poured her heart into, and humbled herself for. She said nothing, not out of shock but pain. She hadn't expected it, not after giving everything. She returned home in tears that same day. Inside Gabriel's apartment, she sobbed in his arms. Don't worry, Gabriel whispered. You don't have to go back there. I love you, Sierra. You don't have to be a martyr for a job that didn't value you. You're all that matters to me. I don't want to depend on you, she said weakly. You're not depending on me. I choose you, every day. You don't need a job for me to be proud of you. She hugged him tight. I hope nothing ruins this. I hope no one invades this world we've built. That was the beginning of their live-in life. While Sierra looked for a new job, she cooked, did laundry, and applied to dozens of positions every night. Despite her unemployment, they were happy. Living together brought simple joy. Gabriel woke up early to have breakfast with her. Just eggs, toast, and coffee. But it felt like a hotel buffet. At night, they curled up for Netflix. Sometimes they didn't finish the movies. They laughed and talked too much. Sometimes, Gabriel whispered one night, arms wrapped around her, I wish time would stop just like this. No work, no stress, just you and me. That's my dream too, Sierra whispered back, but we have to return to reality eventually. Will you still choose me there? She didn't answer in words but held his hand tightly, honestly, lovingly. One morning that felt like a soap opera. A knock came at the door. Gabriel opened it and went pale. Gabriel, who's this woman? Asked an older lady, elegant, wearing pearls and carrying a handbag worth a month of Sierra's past salary. Ma'am, this is Sierra. Gabriel introduced his girlfriend. The woman scanned Sierra from head to toe. So you're living in your condo with a car saleswoman now? Sierra stood silent. She wouldn't stoop to insult, but inside it felt like a storm was coming. She didn't know why it hurt more than losing her job, but it did. She realized then, it's not easy to love someone from a world above yours. Love isn't always enough when someone looks at you like you're unworthy of loving their son. From that day on, peace was gone from their home. Gabriel's mother began visiting frequently, unannounced. Gabriel, we need to talk, she said one night as he returned from work. Sierra stayed quiet on the couch, pretending to read an old magazine. She could feel the conversation was about her. She was right. I didn't raise you to end up with a woman with no name, no degree, and no ambition, his mother said. Ma, I love Sierra, Gabriel replied. Love isn't enough, Gabriel, she snapped. One day when your fortune's gone and she leaves you, you'll wake up. Sierra took a deep breath, hiding how deeply the words cut. The next day, his mother left a cold warning. Be ready for Sunday. Family dinner at home. Bring her. The whole family wants to meet her. Sunday came. Sierra wore her best peach-colored knee-length dress, one she bought with her first commission as a car sales consultant. She styled her hair, added powder, and a touch of lip tint. You ready? Gabriel asked, holding her hand. She smiled nervously, her heart pounding. At the Saavedra mansion, they were immediately met with judging eyes, silently asking, Who is this woman? At the dining table, Sierra sat quietly beside Gabriel. Every bite of food felt heavy under the weight of stares. So, Sierra, where did you go to school? Asked one of Gabriel's aunts with flashy earrings and a social media-ready smile. I didn't get to finish, Ma'am, Sierra replied, still polite. Silence fell. I see. So where did you two meet? Another cousin asked. At a car showroom. I was a sales consultant, she said. Aha, so it was love at first sight at the dealership, the cousin joked. A few laughed. Sierra excused herself quietly and went to the garden. She breathed deeply, tears falling unnoticed. Gabriel followed. Sorry, I should have stopped them. She shook her head. It's okay. I'm used to being belittled. But it won't happen again, I swear, he said, holding her cheek, wiping her tears. If they don't like you, I don't care. I don't need their approval to love you. The next day, Gabriel was called into his father's office. Son, let's talk about business and about that woman. Dad, Sierra's not just a girl. She's my partner. Partner or project? She's not a charity case. His father sighed. You want a future in this company, don't you? You won't have that if you drag her into board meetings. It wasn't just Gabriel's family that disapproved. Even his friends threw jabs. Hey, Sierra, cute bag, pre-loved, one joked while chewing sushi. Sierra, do you even know wine tasting, or do you prefer soft drinks? They laughed. She wanted to fight back, but chose silence, not because she was weak, but because she was tired of proving herself to a world that never tried to understand her. One night on the rooftop of their condo, Gabriel took her hand. Sierra, if you want to leave this world, if you want to leave me, I won't be mad. But if you choose to stay, I'll fight for you every day. She looked at him. Promise? Promise. It was past midnight, but Sierra lay wide awake next to a sleeping Gabriel. She turned to the window, moonlight spilling through. Why me? She asked herself. Why did Gabriel love her, when every step he took came with reminders that she wasn't enough? She sighed, chest heavy, tears forming. She loved him deeply, but if their love only pushed Gabriel away from his family, she wasn't sure she could take that. She remembered a time when she was happy and fulfilled, when she was just a car sales consultant. Her clients were satisfied. Her boss trusted her. Life was light. But since Gabriel entered her life, every eye judged her, every dream dissected, every piece of her was measured by the elite, and always found lacking. She didn't blame Gabriel. She blamed the world's harsh judgment. All I ever wanted was a quiet life. Why does everything feel so loud now? In an elevator one day, alone, she looked at her reflection. She held the expensive bag Gabriel gave her, wore shoes worth 3 months of her old salary. Beneath the makeup, the perfume, the designer clothes, was Sierra still there? The Sierra who smiled under the hot sun, the Sierra who enjoyed simple packed lunches, even in the condo, even with love. Why did everything still feel so heavy? Maybe it was Gabriel's family, the way they looked at her as if she were too small. The moonlight bathed their small kitchen in soft white glow. The air smelled of vanilla and milk. On the table was a tray of pudding, neatly plated, topped with a little caramel, made with love. Sierra whispered as she placed the dessert in front of Gabriel. Her hair was tied loosely with a clip. A little milk stained her cheek. Her apron was simple, not fancy, but the moment was full of affection. Gabriel turned from his laptop. The fatigue on his face disappeared. "Have you tried it yet?" Sierra asked, handing him a spoon. He shook his head. "Not yet. I want the first bite, with you." She smiled and sat across from him. Silence wrapped them. A simple dessert, but in their hearts, it symbolized an unspoken promise. Gabriel took a spoonful. His eyes widened. He looked at Sierra like he was falling in love all over again. "Sierra, this is amazing. This isn't just condo level. This is cafe level, hotel level." She laughed shyly. "Well, your birthday's coming up. I wanted to learn something new. For you." He reached for her hand across the table. "You don't need to prove anything, but if you want to do this, I'm with you. I'm your #1 fan." "You're flattering me again," she teased. That night, as they curled up on the couch, watching old romantic movies, Gabriel whispered, "I'd still choose you, even if I had to choose 100 times." Sierra held him close. "Even if I'm just ordinary, no title, no business, no wealth? Because you're Sierra, the woman I love, not for what you have, but for who you are." He kissed her forehead. "I've got the world taken care of. Just stay with me." The next morning, Gabriel was unusually quiet at breakfast. No jokes, no hugs from behind. He didn't even finish his coffee. Sierra tried to ask what was wrong, but his answers were short, rushed. That night, he sat on the edge of the bed, holding his phone. He glanced briefly at Sierra. "Gab, are you okay?" she asked, concern filling her voice. "Yeah, just tired," he said, rubbing his temples. "Why don't you take a leave? Even 2 days, just to rest," she suggested, massaging his shoulders. He sighed, looking at her. "I can't. I'm under pressure, especially now. I'm trying to win them over. If I do well at the company, if I prove I can be CEO, maybe they'll stop criticizing us." Sierra looked into his eyes. She saw the weight he carried, not just exhaustion, but fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing her. While Gabriel stayed busy, proving himself to his family and the company, Sierra focused on rediscovering herself, her purpose. The next day, she poured her energy into making pudding. By morning, she had her tools lined up, measuring cup to the left, mixing bowl to the right, a list of ingredients. She gathered her courage and posted in the local condo buy and sell group, homemade pudding, sweet, creamy, made with love. Dinar for orders. Within an hour, she had 3. The next day, 5 repeat customers. Gradually, her small business began to grow. But that week, Gabriel and Sierra barely spoke. Gabriel was consumed by work, and Sierra by her small business. One night, she came home to find Gabriel asleep at the table, still in his dress shirt, his laptop in his lap. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "Your birthday's Friday. You deserve a break." A few days before his birthday, Sierra booked a small villa out in the countryside. Nothing fancy, just a balcony and a view. On the drive there, the joy between them was palpable. "If I didn't have work, I'd go back to the days when my only plan was figuring out how to call you," Gabriel joked. "That's why I'll drive us back," Sierra replied, singing along with the radio. They laughed like they had no problems. As they ascended a zigzagging road, Gabriel suddenly fell silent. In the middle of their laughter, he asked, "Sierra, do you want to run away with me?" Sierra was stunned. She didn't know what to say. He looked at her, serious. "Marry me, Right now, just us. Small chapel. No extravagance. I just want to be with you for the rest of my life." The world stopped. Laughter, tears, nerves. She was about to answer, but in a flash, a truck appeared from the curve. "Gabriel!" she screamed. Gabriel swerved hard. They hit a tree. The car flipped. A scream. A crunch of metal. Silence. Sierra's heart pounded. Every breath hurt. Every movement stung. Slowly, she opened her eyes. Everything was white. The beeping of machines and soft footsteps echoed down the corridor. She realized she was in the emergency room. Her mouth hung open, an oxygen tube taped to her face, IV in her arm, bandage on her left forehead. "Gabriel," she whispered faintly. "Where is Gabriel?" She struggled to sit up, despite the pain. "Miss, you need to rest," a nurse called out. "Gabriel," she pleaded, pulling at her oxygen tube, trying to remove the IV. "Where is he?" A doctor approached. "Please, stay calm. You've got trauma too. But good news, no fractures on your X-ray. Head CT is clear. You were saved by the airbag, but we need to treat your wounds," she cried, trembling. "Where is he? Where is Gabriel?" The doctor paused. "He's in the operating room. Critical condition. He was thrown through the windshield. Head trauma. But we're doing everything we can." Sierra collapsed back onto the bed, feeling the sky fall on her. If she could take his pain, she would. "Miss, you really need to calm down," the doctor said. "You still have open wounds. You need to recover too." Hours later, Sierra was transferred to a private room for further treatment. The door burst open suddenly. A cold breeze followed, a presence she knew instantly. Gabriel's family had arrived, first through the door, his mother wearing a designer dress, her lips pressed into a tight line. Behind her, his tall, broad-shouldered father, eyes brimming with fury. "What are you doing here?" Gabriel's mother demanded. "Why are you still here?" Sierra struggled to speak. "Ma'am, please. You had no right to be with my son. If you hadn't clung to him, if you hadn't seduced him, he wouldn't be lying there now. You're the reason he's fighting for his life." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" Sierra dropped to her knees, grabbing the hem of the woman's dress. "Please, I'm begging you. Help him. Save Gabriel. Do whatever it takes. I'll do anything you want." The woman stared down coldly. It was as if she wasn't seeing a person, but dust. "We'll get our son treated," she said, "but you are never to show your face to him again. Do you understand?" Before Sierra could answer, the family walked out. She remained kneeling on the floor, shaking, powerless, stripped of even the right to be near Gabriel. She was hospitalized for several more days. Each day she wished for a glimpse of him in the ICU, but Gabriel's family had seemingly taken over the entire hospital. All staff were ordered. Sierra is not allowed near him, not even close. One night, clutching a trembling hand, she wrote a letter, long, full of love, apologies and prayers for Gabriel's recovery. She handed it to a nurse. "Please, even if he doesn't read it right away, I just want him to know I'm here." But the next morning, the nurse returned, avoiding her eyes. His mother tore it up, right in front of me. Sierra felt her heart crack. She slumped on the hospital bed, staring blankly. There was nothing more she could do. No more battles to fight. Gabriel's world had never loved her. A week passed. Sierra looked back one last time at the hospital. She carried a small bag, her body still healing, but her soul even more wounded. As she walked through the lobby, a nurse called after her. "Miss Sierra!" She turned, a flicker of hope lighting her face. The nurse gently took her arm, her voice quiet, secretive. "Are you sure you're leaving?" Sierra nodded. "Why?" The nurse hesitated. "What about the baby you're carrying?" Sierra froze. "What did you say?" We sent your blood work to the lab. It's confirmed. You're pregnant. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. She felt no movement yet, no confirmation until now. But it was real. She had one more reason to fight. 5 years later, in a modest but cozy apartment in a small American suburb, laughter filled the air as a simple family enjoyed dinner. Despite financial struggles, warmth and love made the home glow. At the table, Sierra smiled while her 5-year-old twins, Gabriel Jr. and Grace, enjoyed the meal she'd stretched with potatoes. "This is so yummy, Mama," they said in unison, kissing her cheeks. She smiled. "As long as it's for you, I'll make anything special." After washing the dishes, she called the twins to her bedside. "Sweethearts," she began softly, "I need to tell you something." The twins sat quietly, holding hands. "You were supposed to start first grade next year, remember? But it looks like you won't be able to attend just yet. Mama lost her job." She steadied herself. "But that doesn't mean we're giving up." The twins nodded. Grace hugged her tightly. "It's okay, Mama. We'll study at home." "Yeah," added Gabriel Jr. "I'll teach Grace." Sierra chuckled through the heaviness. She held them close. "Thank you, my loves. Mama will find a way. I promise." Later that night, while the twins were tucked in, Sierra overheard them whispering a prayer. "Dear Jesus," whispered Gabriel Jr., "please let us meet our dad someday, so he can help Mama." "Yes," Grace added, "so she won't be sad, so she won't be alone anymore." Sierra stood quietly behind the door, tears streaming down her cheeks. She placed a hand over her heart. That love, it never really left. The next morning, Sierra woke early. She asked her neighbor, Mrs. Beverly, to watch the twins for a few hours. Carrying a folder of resumes, IDs, and other documents, she wore her neatest clothes, even if they were old. She stepped out with one thing in mind. Maybe today would be the lucky day. But rejection followed her at every stop. "Sorry, miss, we're full." "No openings right now." "Oh, were you the former car sales agent? Sorry, HR might not approve that anymore." Finally, hungry and exhausted, she found herself outside a bakery. She counted her coins carefully and managed to buy one piece of bread. Sitting on the curb, she ate quietly, watching others laugh and eat inside. She lowered her head. What now? What else? How do I keep going? Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw a tray of pudding being carried out. Cold, with caramel on top. Simple, but it jolted something in her. Pudding. Their pudding. Like a wave, memories returned. The first time she made it, Gabriel's praise, their shared nights of celebration. That was where the dream began. She looked up at the sky. Maybe this is the way back. Elsewhere in the city, Gabriel stood on a stage, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored dark slacks. He had just finished delivering his speech as the newly appointed CEO of his family's company. Not long ago, he was just executive vice president. Now he had taken the next big step toward leading the empire. Cameras flashed, applause echoed. A reporter shouted, "Mr. Gabriel, is it true you're engaged to Jenny Villacourt?" He smiled faintly, but didn't answer. He walked straight to his car, headed for his weekly checkup. The effects of the trauma from 5 years ago still lingered. Inside the clinic, the doctor asked, "How are you, Gabriel?" He paused before answering. "I still get dreams. A woman, always blurry. I can't remember anything clearly, but something's missing." The doctor nodded. "That's expected. Trauma-induced amnesia can block selective memory. But in your case, after 5 years, it's unlikely you'll recover those memories. Maybe it's best to focus on the present and the future." Gabriel nodded, staring out the window. Yet something inside him felt unfinished, like a piece of his soul had been left behind in a place he couldn't name. That night, Sierra revived the old pudding recipe, the same one from the night she said, I love you, and the night they both disappeared from each other's lives, a recipe built from memory, love, and longing. "Mum, my head hurts," Gabriel Jr. said the next morning. It was the same day Sierra had finally decided to start selling pudding again, but fate had other plans. That night, both twins developed fevers. Grace coughed throughout the night while Gabriel Jr. became quiet, his eyes barely opening, refusing to eat. Sierra didn't sleep. She rotated cold towels on their foreheads and tried to spoon-feed them rice porridge. She checked their temperature again and again, whispering desperate prayers in between. By dawn, she had no choice. She knocked on Mrs. Beverly's door. "Please," she pleaded, "may I borrow some money, just for medicine, anything?" Mrs. Beverly, despite her own struggles, gave what little she had, just enough for 2 fever reducers, a bottle of electrolytes, and some milk. "Thank you. I promise to pay you back after I make a few sales." Sierra rushed home, administered the medicine, fed the children, and rocked them gently in her arms, even though she herself was trembling with exhaustion. In the back of her mind, she blamed herself. If only I had a better job. If only they had a father. She sat on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees. "Lord, please, just a little mercy." Meanwhile, in an upscale venue in Manhattan, guests gathered for a lavish engagement party. Gabriel wore a navy blue suit, his arm around a smiling woman, Jenny Villacourt, heiress to another major corporation. CEOs, politicians, and socialites filled the room. There was a live band, an open bar, and imported floral centerpieces. Gabriel smiled for the press, toasted with charm, posed like a man in love. But deep inside, something gnawed at him. At one point, he glanced toward the dessert table. There, among the pastries, was a tray of pudding, a simple pudding, with caramel. His gaze locked on it. His chest tightened, his mouth tingled. "Gab," Jenny asked, still smiling. "You okay?" He blinked, snapped out of it. "Yeah, sorry, just something I remembered." Later that evening, back at their shared condominium, Gabriel quietly removed his coat and faced the mirror. He touched the side of his head. It hurt. It felt like something wanted to come out. "Who are you?" he whispered to his reflection. "Why can't I forget you?" He sat on the bed, looking at the engagement ring Jenny wore. Stunning, smart, perfect. And yet, his heart still felt hollow. Back in her small apartment, Sierra stared out the window. The twins were asleep on the bed, recovering thanks to the medicine. But the question lingered. For how long? She had no money for a proper checkup, no certainty for the future. But inside her, a quiet fire still burned. "I'll rise. For them." She turned to the table, pulled out her notebook, and rewrote the pudding recipe from memory. Every step, every measure, carried with it pain, patience, and love. And that night, on opposite ends of the city, 2 people could not sleep. One because of a dream he could not remember, the other because of a reality she could never forget. Fresh, fluffy pudding. Come taste it. The twins were finally well again, and eager to help their mum. Under the scorching sun, amidst the horns and barks of the city, Sierra stood on the sidewalk with an old styrofoam cooler filled with homemade pudding. At first, only a few curious passers-by bought from her. Some questioned the caramel topping. Why not the usual milk sauce like store-bought ones? But after a bite, "This tastes like a memory." An old man smiled. "Just like my wife used to make. This is good, miss." Slowly, her pudding started gaining attention. Some days, she sold near the subway. Other times, by the local market. Eventually, the school down the street allowed her to set up during dismissal time. Months passed. Life was still modest, but Sierra was able to start paying off her debts and even save a bit for the twins' school enrollment. Even more important, her children were smiling again. Often, they helped too. Grace would dance beside the stand, singing, "Mommy's pudding, come get it now, before it's gone." Meanwhile, Gabriel Jr. handled the change and handed out spoons. They weren't just selling, they were easing their mother's burdens with every laugh and every sale. While Sierra was rebuilding her life one pudding at a time, Gabriel was soaring higher than ever. His company was preparing to expand with a major new project, an upscale condominium development on the outskirts of the city. "It's the perfect location," said the project manager. "Low-income community, easy to clear, a little compensation and the land is ours." Gabriel barely looked at the details. With so many projects under his wing, he saw it as another business move. Nothing more. What he didn't know was that the area in question was Sierra and the twins' current neighborhood. One morning, as Sierra was preparing pudding, someone knocked on the door of their rented shack. "Demolition notice. You have 2 weeks," one of the workers announced loudly. It felt like cold water had been dumped on her. Neighbors came out, confused, panicked. "What now? Where will we go?" "I can't afford new rent." "They didn't even warn us." Flyers were posted along walls. Panic spread. Sierra's knees buckled. "Lord, why now?" she whispered. Just yesterday, she had received a big order for a birthday party. She thought they were finally turning a corner. Not yet, it seemed. "Kids," she said softly to Gabriel Jr. and Grace, "we might have to leave our home soon." But instead of crying, Grace took her hand. "Didn't you say, Mama, when we face problems we pray?" Gabriel Jr. added, "We'll help. We can do a TikTok dance while selling, so more people buy." Sierra burst into tears. "I don't know what I did to deserve you." In the days that followed, they became even more determined. Sierra launched a pudding pack, 3-for-1 promo. Grace came up with simple dance steps while holding a banner. Gabriel Jr. created a makeshift speaker from an old ice cream tub. Even on rainy days, they stood under a tarp at the bus stop, between fear and faith. Every spoonful of pudding they handed out came with a silent prayer. Please let there be a miracle. Meanwhile, in a boardroom downtown, Gabriel received a memo from the project lead. Phase 1 of demolition begins next week. Condominiums will rise immediately after. He glanced at the photo attached. Something stirred in his memory. That place, that street, a woman, tears, pudding. He touched his temple. His head ached. "Sir, are you all right?" a staff member asked. Gabriel gave a faint smile. "Yeah, just remembered something." But the headaches persisted, and the image of the woman became clearer each time. The sun blazed as Gabriel's black SUV crawled through the narrow streets near one of their upcoming construction sites. Traffic stalled. He glanced out the window. A small stall stood across the street. A cardboard sign read, "Mum's Pudding. Taste a memory." "Boss, want to stop for a bit while we're stuck?" the driver asked. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. "Pudding?" He nodded. "Yeah, sure. Buy me one." The driver returned minutes later with a plastic cup of pudding. Gabriel looked back toward the stand. That's when he saw her. Sierra. Though he didn't yet know it was her. Sweat lined her forehead, her face kind and focused. 2 laughing kids danced beside her, chanting their jingle. She handed pudding to customers with gentle pride. Gabriel stared. Something inside him stirred. But the traffic moved. His gaze lingered until it couldn't. He opened the container, took a spoonful, and the world froze. Music echoed in his mind. A love song. A voice whispered, "Gab, eat slowly. You'll burn your tongue." He winced, looking into the distance. More images flooded in. A woman crying, a hospital, a rainy night, a car crash, Sierra's face, her voice begging, the taste of pudding. "President! President Gabriel!" He blinked back to reality. "Turn around! Quick! We need to go back to that vendor. As they raced back, the street was already in chaos. Crowds had gathered. A siren blared. Gabriel's heart pounded. The pudding stall was destroyed, hit by a truck. He jumped out of the SUV and ran. Someone help! The vendor! The woman! She's hurt! There she was, Sierra, covered in blood, being carried by neighbors. The twins stood nearby, shaking but unharmed. They had been playing across the street. "Call an ambulance!" Gabriel shouted. "No, get in! I'm taking her!" Inside the SUV, holding her hand tightly, Gabriel trembled. "Sierra, my God!" It was all coming back. The love, the accident, the hospital, the stolen time. He remembered everything. As Sierra was rushed into the ER, Gabriel paced in the hallway, heart racing. The twins sat nearby, holding hands, terrified but unharmed. A kind neighbor stayed with them. Soon, Gabriel's parents and Jenny arrived, faces pale, tension in their eyes. "What is she doing here?" Gabriel's father snapped. "She's supposed to be gone." Jenny trembled. "You weren't supposed to see her again. You were never meant to remember." Gabriel stared at them. "You lied to me," he said, voice low. His mother stepped forward. "We did what we had to. You wouldn't have stopped until you found her. And we knew, if you remembered, you'd never agree to marry Jenny." Gabriel's voice cracked. "I never forgot her. Not really. Even without my memory, I still couldn't let her go." No one responded. Through the observation window, he watched as doctors operated on Sierra. Fear and guilt consumed him. "If I hadn't driven through that street, I might have never found her again." He looked over at the twins. One of them had a scraped knee, but both were strong, like Sierra. "My children," he whispered. "I'll never lose you again." Hours passed. The hospital room was cold, quiet. Only machines beeped steadily. Sierra lay unconscious, motionless. She was in a coma. Gabriel didn't waste time. He hired private investigators and lawyers. In secret, he had the twins' DNA tested. He hoped, but feared. When the results arrived, he opened the envelope with trembling hands. Positive. 99.99%. He was their father. Tears fell as he clutched the paper. He walked over to where the twins were quietly playing in the corner of Sierra's room. He hugged them both. Every day, Gabriel stayed in that room. Morning to night, night to morning. He wiped Sierra's face, brushed her hair, applied her favorite lotion after the nurses bathed her, brought her white roses, her favorite flower. Sometimes he whispered stories to her as if she were awake. "Sierra, I remember now, everything. Your pudding, your smile, your stubbornness when you were tired from work. Our promise." The machines answered with silence. Still, he never stopped. Weeks passed. Gabriel often found the twins growing curious. "Uncle Gabriel," Grace asked one night while he changed Sierra's bedsheets, "are you Mama's doctor?" Gabriel smiled gently. "No, sweetheart, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a friend, a very old friend." "Then why are you here every day?" Gabriel Jr. chimed in. Gabriel bit his lip. "Because she's very important to me. I love her, very much." He wasn't ready to explain everything, not yet. Sierra deserved the chance to be the one to tell them. Late at night, when the twins were asleep in the temporary apartment, Gabriel would return to the hospital. He'd sit beside Sierra, praying. "When I finally had everything, I realized none of it mattered if you weren't with me. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner, but I'm here now. I'm not leaving again." Sometimes the nurses would find him asleep in a plastic chair, his forehead resting against the edge of her bed. Gabriel took legal action immediately. He filed a case to halt the demolition of Sierra's neighborhood. At a press conference, he told the media the land needed re-evaluation. Residents had lived there for over a decade. They deserved protection. "This isn't about profit anymore," he said. This is about the woman I abandoned and the children I never knew. He also filed for full medical guardianship of Sierra so he could legally protect and care for her during her coma. But even with all his efforts, Sierra didn't wake. Some days her fingers twitched. Sometimes her breath changed, but her eyes remained closed. Each time it happened, Gabriel would plead, "Just a sign, Sierra. Just one. Show me you're still fighting." But silence always returned. One night, Gabriel sat beside Sierra, gently holding her hand. The twins were asleep on the nearby sofa, heads resting on each other's shoulders. He looked at all three of them and quietly cried. "This is my family," he whispered. "I won't leave them. Never again." It had been over 2 months since Gabriel had saved Sierra's life. Though she hadn't yet woken, his resolve only grew stronger. Outside the hospital, however, rumors swirled. The media buzzed with speculation about Gabriel's broken engagement with Jenny. Some wondered, was the wedding still on? Others suspected the truth. "Who's the woman in room 712? Is it true Gabriel has children with someone else?" Despite efforts from Gabriel's family to contain the story, the press only became more relentless. Gabriel's behavior made it obvious. He no longer attended board meetings. He skipped expansion briefings. Every day he was at the hospital. His mother was furious. One night, she arrived at the hospital unannounced, wearing dark sunglasses, flanked by 2 bodyguards, and Jenny. "Gabriel," she said coldly, "we need to talk." He stood from Sierra's bedside. "I only want to talk about one thing, this engagement." Jenny snapped. "What are you thinking? You've humiliated me in front of everyone. Even my investors are doubting me." "I never asked for this engagement," Gabriel replied firmly. "You all forced it. You used me to merge 2 companies. His mother stepped closer, voice rising. "You are destroying everything we built, over this woman, over children you didn't even raise." Gabriel said nothing. He looked at Sierra's pale, peaceful face, and that was all the answer he needed. That same night, unknown to Gabriel, something darker unfolded. On security footage he would never be allowed to see, 2 nurses connected to his family quietly entered Sierra's room. One held a small vial. "Just something to suppress brain response," whispered the nurse. "If she wakes up, everything flips." They injected the substance into Sierra's IV bag, then left. No trace, no alarms, only intent. The next morning, Gabriel arrived at the hospital with breakfast for the twins. They greeted him excitedly. "Uncle Gab, we taught Mama a new song." Grace beamed. "Want to hear it?" asked Gabriel Jr. Gabriel smiled, though his eyes were heavy with worry. "Sure, teach it to me and we'll sing it when she wakes up." But he didn't know Sierra's condition had taken a turn. Her brain activity had dropped. Monitors showed abnormal readings. A nurse nearby whispered to another, "It's off." The timing. Something's wrong. Almost like she was affected by something. That night, while Gabriel fluffed Sierra's pillows, an alarm suddenly blared. Her heartbeat slowed. Staff rushed in. "Code Blue! Code Blue!" Gabriel clutched Sierra's hand. "Please, don't go." The team stabilized her, but the report was clear. There had been a sudden, dangerous drop in her vitals. It didn't make sense. Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that someone had done this. Later, he found Nurse Pia, a veteran staff member. "Have you noticed anything strange?" he asked. She hesitated. "You're the only one here who doesn't work for my family. Please, if you know anything—" She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "There have been nights when nurses come in who aren't scheduled. I thought it was authorized, but their behavior, it wasn't normal. I reported it, but the chief nurse dismissed it." Gabriel's fists clenched. He hadn't imagined it, and now he wouldn't stay silent. Gabriel returned to the hospital with purpose in every step. What he had feared was now real. He reviewed the CCTV recordings. With Nurse Pia's help and testimonies from a few brave staff members, he confirmed what had been done. His mother, Eloise, and Jenny were behind the medical sabotage. They hadn't just orchestrated his engagement. They had tried to keep Sierra from ever waking up. Gabriel stood before the hospital board, his voice shook, not from fear, but fury. This isn't just a policy violation. This is attempted murder. I won't stop until everyone responsible is held accountable. He submitted the footage, medical reports showing tampering with Sierra's IV, and statements from nurses who refused to stay silent. The room fell quiet. The board chair asked, "What do you want done, Mr. Saavedra?" Gabriel looked up, unflinching. "I want a case filed, against my mother, against Jenny, against anyone who helped them. They're no longer my family." Days passed. The legal process was set in motion, but Gabriel never left Sierra's side. He adjusted her pillows, brought fresh flowers, read her stories, and talked to her about the twins. They came too, whenever they could. "Mom, wake up," Grace whispered one day, placing her favorite toy beside her. "Let's sell pudding again," added Gabriel Jr., clutching Sierra's hand. And then, it happened. As all three of them sat quietly in the room, Sierra's fingers moved. Gabriel stood, her eyes slowly opened. "Mom!" the twins cried, rushing to her side. Sierra blinked, adjusting to the light. She turned toward Gabriel, recognition blooming in her expression. "Gab," she whispered. Gabriel dropped to his knees beside her bed, tears falling. "Yes, it's me. I'm here, Sierra. I'm here." Sierra tried to sit up, but her body was still weak. Gabriel gently supported her. She stared at him, unsure if it was a dream. "What happened?" Gabriel took a breath. "They tried to take you from me, but I didn't let them." Tears welled in Sierra's eyes. She didn't know which hurt more, the memories she couldn't place, or the man beside her who never left. "Where are they, Gabriel?" she asked. "What happened to everyone?" "I'm pressing charges," he said, voice firm. "They'll answer for what they did. But what matters right now is you. You and our kids." Sierra broke into sobs. "I never meant to disappear. I never meant to take them away." Gabriel held her face in his hands, steady but gentle. "You don't need to apologize. They're the ones who did wrong, not you." In the weeks that followed, Sierra slowly regained her strength. She was moved to a safer hospital, far from anyone who could interfere. The twins visited every day after tutoring. They brought songs, stories, drawings, and love. Gabriel never left her side. Meanwhile, the legal case moved forward. The court accepted it as attempted murder through medical sabotage. Financial investigations began, uncovering misappropriations that pointed toward Jenny and Eloise. Jenny's health crumbled under pressure. Diagnosed with severe anxiety and panic disorder, she was admitted to a psychiatric facility and quietly stepped out of the public eye. Gabriel's mother was formally removed from the board of their company. The family, ashamed, distanced themselves. But Gabriel no longer cared about the boardroom. It was late evening. The hospital hallway was still and quiet. Inside the private room, Gabriel sat beside Sierra, their hands gently clasped. "We've been through so much," Sierra murmured, her voice still recovering. "But I'm scared, Gabriel. What if something like this happens again?" Gabriel shook his head softly. "I won't let it. I won't let anything take you away again." Sierra let out a deep breath, looking out the window at the stars. "Some dreams, I thought they were gone, but now they feel close again." "They are," Gabriel said, "and it's time we make them real." Days passed. Sierra continued to heal. The twins visited after school, now more cheerful than ever. They brought their drawings, stories about their tutoring, and every night they'd hug Sierra tight before leaving. One evening, Sierra asked a passing nurse, "Is there another patient in the room across from mine? A woman, around my age, pale skin?" The nurse nodded. "Yes, Ma'am, that's Miss Jenny. She's stable, but still in a delicate condition." Sierra's breath caught. She had heard pieces of the story, but yesterday she had overheard whispers. Jenny needed a rare blood type. "Oh, negative," the nurse confirmed. "We've been searching, but it's hard to match." Sierra's heart began to race. That's my blood type. She had always been told it was rare, always reminded during blood work and screenings. "Can I be tested, just to check if I'm a match?" The nurse nodded, surprised. "Of course, I'll let the lab know." Hours later, Sierra sat silently in the blood testing room, watching as the nurse filled a vial. She said nothing, but inside her, a storm swirled. When the nurse returned, she looked stunned. "Ma'am, the results are in. You're not just a match, you're a perfect match." Sierra blinked. "What do you mean?" The nurse hesitated. "It's rare to find this level of compatibility, not just blood type, but marrow and protein markers, the kind of match usually seen in twins." Sierra's world tilted. "Twins?" "Yes, fraternal most likely. You're not identical, but genetically, the match is as close as siblings can get." Sierra froze. A memory came unbidden. A dark night, her small body soaked and trembling. Screams, fire, a boat, a child's hand in hers. "Climb up," she'd screamed. "I've got you. Don't be scared." And then, she had pushed the girl onto the boat, and darkness swallowed her. Sierra covered her mouth, eyes wide. Jenny. Jenny was her sister. She sat for a long time in that room. How was it possible? She had saved her all those years ago. And now, Jenny had been part of those who tried to erase her. Sierra shook, overwhelmed. What is the right thing to do? Images of her twins flashed in her mind. Gabriel Jr. and Grace, so full of love. Always choosing kindness. Always praying for healing, not revenge. If I can't forgive, what will I teach them? The next day, Sierra quietly entered the donor room. The needle pierced her skin. Blood flowed into the bag meant for Jenny. Gabriel sat beside her, silent. "I know," he whispered. "I know everything now. They were behind it all. And still, you're doing this." Sierra looked away, eyes wet. "I don't know how to face what I've learned, but I can't let her die. Not if I can help." "She's your sister," Gabriel said gently. "I didn't know," Sierra whispered. "But somehow, I always felt I had someone out there." Gabriel held her hand tighter. "You're the kindest person I know." After the donation, Sierra and Gabriel waited for hours. Finally, the doctor emerged with an update. "She's past the critical stage," he said. "We're not out of the woods, but she's responding to treatment." Sierra exhaled deeply and looked up, silently giving thanks. As they walked back to her room, Gabriel asked, "What will you do now?" "I want to talk to her," Sierra replied. "I need to know, does she remember anything? And if not, I'll tell her." Gabriel met her gaze, eyes full of admiration. "I'll be right there with you." Over the next few days, Jenny's condition gradually improved. Sierra stayed close, not as an enemy, but as someone waiting for a truth to be acknowledged. One afternoon, Sierra sat beside Jenny's bed. The machines beeped steadily. Jenny remained unconscious. Sierra reached for her hand. "I don't know if you'll understand this," she whispered, "but I'm your sister." She held back tears. "I'm the one who pushed you onto that boat all those years ago. I thought I lost you forever." A tear rolled down Sierra's cheek, landing on Jenny's palm. Jenny's fingers twitched, her eyes fluttered. Slowly they opened, dazed, adjusting to the light. A nurse rushed in. Miss Jenny! The doctor was paged. Sierra stood back, overwhelmed. Then a voice, hoarse, fragile. Sierra stepped closer. Jenny blinked slowly. You're here? I am, Sierra whispered, and there's something you need to know. Jenny lay still, her eyes filled with confusion and tears. What happened? Why am I here? Sierra sat beside her, voice soft and steady. You got sick, critically sick. You needed blood. A rare type. I matched. Jenny looked away, ashamed. Why? Why would you help me? Sierra took a deep breath. Because I had to, and because you're my sister. Jenny froze. Sierra continued. There was a fire, a boat. You were just a child. I was the one who pushed you to safety. Jenny closed her eyes. Her lips trembled. I thought it was a dream. A voice, yelling for me to climb. I thought I imagined it. It was real, Sierra said. And I'm real. Your sister. Tears streamed down Jenny's cheeks. All this time, and I hurt you. I tried to take everything from you. I used Gabriel for my pride, for the image I wanted to keep. Sierra reached out and, despite everything, held her. You didn't know. And even if you did, I know what it's like to feel lost, to not know who you are. Jenny wept harder. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But you have it, Sierra whispered. We've both lost too much already. I won't lose my only sister again. A long silence followed. Then Jenny looked at her, eyes red and tired. Thank you for saving me. Again. Weeks passed. Sierra was finally discharged. Her strength had returned. Her smile, though quieter now, was genuine. Gabriel walked beside her, holding one of her hands while the twins clung to the other. The small family stepped into the sunlight together. It was a beginning, not flashy, not dramatic, just full of peace. Jenny, still in recovery, wrote a letter. Sierra, I don't know how long it will take for me to make up for what I've done, but I want to try. Thank you for saving me, for reminding me of who I really am. I hope someday you'll let me stand beside you, not as someone who hurt you, but as the sister who finally remembered. Love, Jenny. Sierra folded the letter carefully and placed it in her drawer. She wasn't sure what the future would look like, but she had a future now, a family, healing. That night, she and Gabriel sat on the small balcony of their new apartment. The twins had fallen asleep after watching their favorite cartoon. In Gabriel's hands was a small velvet box. Sierra turned to him, startled. Gabriel, he smiled. I know we've been through more than most, but I still want to ask, will you marry me? Sierra teared up. She nodded. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. A year later, the air was filled with the scent of white roses and vanilla pudding. The ceremony was small, just close friends, a few neighbors, and the people who had stood by them when life was at its hardest. Sierra wore a simple off-white gown. Her hair was loosely curled, her makeup minimal. She walked down the aisle between Grace and Gabriel Jr., who proudly held the hem of her dress and her bouquet. Gabriel waited at the altar, tears in his eyes. Jenny sat in the front row, a handkerchief clutched in her hands, silently weeping. When Sierra reached him, Gabriel took her hand. They faced each other, not as people trying to impress the world, but as two souls who had already chosen each other through pain, loss, and miracles. I don't have a fancy vow, Gabriel whispered. Me neither, Sierra smiled. But I'm here, that's my vow. Their officiant smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. The kiss was gentle, familiar. From the crowd, the twins clapped the loudest. Later, as the reception began, pudding was served in little glass jars with golden ribbons. Each guest had a spoon and a note that read, "Thank you for being part of our story." The sun dipped low as music played, and the children danced on the grass. Gabriel pulled Sierra close. "You know," he said, "this pudding tastes different now." "Why?" she asked. He smiled. "Because it tastes like forever." The end. Thank you for watching. This is Mr. Hope. Blessings to you all.